I remember the day vividly. It was a typical gray morning in Boston, and the air was thick with anticipation as the team gathered in the conference room. We were at a critical juncture in the development of our latest software project at Miller Tech. I had poured my heart and soul into the coding, working late nights and weekends to ensure every line of code was flawless. But despite my dedication, the project faced unforeseen challenges that could have been mitigated had Richard Miller, our CEO, not made an imprudent decision to cut corners on critical testing phases. The room was eerily silent as Richard entered, his presence commanding an uncomfortable tension. He began the meeting with his usual bravado, addressing the team with a false sense of optimism that I knew too well. As he started to delve into the reasons behind the project's failure, my stomach churned. I could sense it coming. "Mark," Richard's voice cut through the silence. "Can you explain why this project has failed so spectacularly?" I took a deep breath, choosing my words carefully. "Richard, as I mentioned before, the lack of comprehensive testing due to budget cuts severely impacted our ability to identify critical issues early on." Richard's face hardened, his eyes narrowing. "Are you saying this is my fault, Mark?" "No, what I'm saying is that we needed more time and resources to ensure the quality of the product," I replied, my voice steady despite the mounting tension. Richard's gaze swept across the room, then settled back on me with an unnerving intensity. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, "it's clear that Mark here couldn't handle the responsibility. Effective immediately, Mark Johnson is no longer with Miller Tech." The words hit me like a sledgehammer. I felt the air leave my lungs, my vision blurring as I processed the public humiliation. My colleagues exchanged uncomfortable glances, some looking away entirely. I wanted to speak up, to defend myself, but the shock rendered me mute. "Pack your things, Mark," Richard said, his tone dripping with finality. "Security will escort you out." As I gathered my belongings, I could feel the weight of everyone's eyes on me, but no one dared to speak up. I walked out of the building, the place where I had invested so much of my time and energy, feeling utterly betrayed and directionless. Back at my apartment, I sank into the couch, the reality of the situation crashing down on me. My phone buzzed with messages from colleagues expressing their disbelief and sympathy, but it offered little comfort. I replayed the events in my mind over and over, trying to make sense of how things had spiraled so quickly. A knock on the door pulled me from my thoughts. It was my friend and former colleague, Jenny. "Mark, can I come in?" she asked, her voice filled with concern. "Sure," I replied, stepping aside to let her in. She sat down next to me, her eyes searching mine. "What happened in there? That was completely unfair." I sighed, running a hand through my hair. Richard needed someone to blame, and I was the easiest target. He never liked me, and this was his chance to get rid of me. Jenny shook her head in disbelief. "You didn't deserve that. You were one of the best programmers we had." "Thanks, Jenny, but right now I don't know what to do. I've been blindsided," I admitted, my voice tinged with despair. She placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "You have so much talent, Mark. Don't let this setback define you. Take some time to regroup and figure out your next move. You're going to come out stronger from this. I know it." Her words offered a glimmer of hope, and for the first time that day, I felt a flicker of determination. I wasn't going to let Richard's actions destroy me. My journey was far from over, and I was ready to face whatever came next. After the devastating blow of losing my job and being publicly humiliated by Richard Miller, I found myself at a crossroads. I had two choices. I could either wallow in self-pity and let the injustice define me, or I could rise above it and prove my worth. I chose the latter. Determined to reinvent myself, I began by immersing myself in the latest technological advancements. I attended every networking event and tech conference I could find, eager to learn and connect with others in the industry. It was during one of these conferences that I met Susan Carter, a dynamic and visionary investor. I remember our first conversation vividly. We were at a tech summit in San Francisco, and I just finished listening to a keynote speech on artificial intelligence. "Hi, I'm Susan Carter," she introduced herself, extending her hand with a confident smile. "I couldn't help but notice you were taking a lot of notes during the presentation." "Yes, I'm Mark Johnson," I replied, shaking her hand. "I'm really fascinated by the potential of AI. I've been thinking about some ideas that could revolutionize the field." Susan's eyes lit up with interest. "Tell me more," she urged. As we talked, I shared my vision of a new project that could push the boundaries of AI technology. To my surprise, Susan was not only interested, but enthusiastic about my ideas. "You have something special here, Mark," she said. "I'd like to help you bring this vision to life. How about we partner up?" That moment was a turning point for me. With Susan's support, we co-founded Next Gen Solutions, a company dedicated to pioneering innovative AI technologies. The journey was anything but easy. There were countless sleepless nights, financial challenges, and moments of doubt. But through it all, Susan and I remained steadfast in our mission. "Mark, we just received the prototype back from the engineers," Susan said one late night in the office. "It's not perfect, but it's a start." I examined the prototype, feeling a mix of excitement and anxiety. "We'll make it work," I said determinedly. "We've come too far to turn back now." Our perseverance began to pay off. We started attracting attention from major investors and tech companies. People were intrigued by our innovative approach to AI and the potential applications of our technology. One day, we received an email from a major tech conference inviting us to present our research. It was a huge opportunity to showcase our work on an international stage. "Can you believe it, Mark?" Susan said, her voice brimming with excitement. "They want us to speak at the Global Tech Summit." I could hardly contain my excitement. "This is our chance to prove ourselves to the world," I replied. The weeks leading up to the summit were a whirlwind of preparation. We refined our presentation, fine-tuned our technology, and rehearsed tirelessly. When the day finally arrived, I stood on that stage, looking out at a sea of faces eager to hear what we had to say. As I spoke about our journey and the groundbreaking potential of our AI technology, I felt an overwhelming sense of accomplishment. The applause that followed was not just a recognition of our work, but a validation of the resilience and determination that had brought us to that moment. Next Gen Solutions continued to grow, attracting partnerships with industry giants and securing our place as a leader in the tech world. The path was fraught with hurdles, but each challenge only strengthened our resolve. "Mark, you've done an incredible job," Susan said to me one evening as we reflected on our journey. "I always knew you had it in you." "Thank you, Susan," I replied, deeply grateful. "I couldn't have done it without your belief and support." And so, against all odds, I had transformed my greatest setback into a triumphant comeback. My journey from being humiliated and dismissed to becoming the CEO of a groundbreaking company was a testament to the power of resilience, innovation, and the unwavering belief in one's potential. As the CEO of Next Gen Solutions, I could hardly believe how far we had come. From the ashes of my career at MillerTech, we had built an empire. It wasn't just about the technology. It was about proving to myself and to the world that resilience and innovation could triumph over adversity. I remember the day we signed our first major partnership with a tech giant. Susan and I had been working around the clock, perfecting our pitch and ensuring every detail was flawless. "Mark," Susan said, her voice tinged with excitement, "this is it. This deal is going to change everything." We entered the boardroom, a sleek modern space that screamed success and innovation. Representatives from the tech giant were already seated, their expressions a mix of curiosity and skepticism. I took a deep breath and began our presentation, showcasing our latest AI advancements and how they could revolutionize their operations. After what felt like an eternity, the lead representative smiled and extended his hand. "We're in," he said. "Let's make this happen." That moment was surreal. Susan and I exchanged looks of triumph. We had done it. Next Gen Solutions was no longer a fledgling startup. We were now a force to be reckoned with. But success wasn't just about landing big deals. It was also about navigating the myriad challenges that came with rapid growth. There were days when the pressure was almost unbearable. Competitors tried to sabotage us, spreading rumors and attempting to poach our top talent. There were also internal struggles, with team members feeling the strain of our ambitious goals. One evening, as I was leaving the office late, I bumped into Jacob, one of our lead developers, in the hallway. He looked exhausted. "Jacob, you okay?" I asked, concerned. He sighed heavily. "Mark, I'm not sure how much longer I can keep this up. The constant pressure, the long hours, it's taking a toll." I nodded, understanding his plight. "I get it, Jacob. We're all feeling it. But remember why we're doing this. We're pushing boundaries, creating something extraordinary. And it's not just about the company. It's about all of us, our dreams, our futures." Jacob looked at me, a glimmer of hope returning to his eyes. "Thanks, Mark. I needed to hear that." Keeping the team motivated was crucial. They were the backbone of Next Gen Solutions, and their passion and dedication were what fueled our success. Susan and I made it a point to celebrate every win, no matter how small, and to always acknowledge the hard work of our team. One particularly challenging period was when a major competitor launched a smear campaign against us. They questioned the integrity of our technology, trying to sow doubt among our partners and customers. It was a low blow, and it hurt. Susan and I called an emergency meeting with our PR team. "We need to respond, and we need to do it swiftly," I said, my voice firm. "But we're not going to stoop to their level. We'll let our work speak for itself." We launched a counter-campaign, highlighting the real-world impact of our technology and featuring testimonials from satisfied clients. We also hosted a live demo, showcasing our AI's capabilities in real time. The response was overwhelmingly positive, and the competitors' attempts to undermine us backfired spectacularly. As we continued to grow, I was invited to speak at numerous conferences around the world. Standing on those stages, sharing our journey and our vision for the future was incredibly gratifying. I received awards and accolades, but the real reward was seeing how our work was making a difference. One evening, after a particularly successful conference, Susan and I were having dinner. "Can you believe this?" she said, raising her glass. "From where we started to where we are now, it's incredible." I clinked my glass against hers. "It is, and we're just getting started." Next Gen Solutions was more than a company to me. It was a testament to the power of determination and the belief that even the darkest moments can lead to the brightest futures. And as we continued to innovate and push the boundaries of technology, I knew that our best days were still ahead. I remember the day Richard Miller's name popped up on my calendar like it was yesterday. I had just wrapped up a meeting with my executive team, discussing our latest AI innovation, when my assistant, Emily, timidly approached me with a puzzled look on her face. "Mark, you have a meeting scheduled with Richard Miller?" she said, her voice trailing off in uncertainty. I couldn't help but let out a small, incredulous laugh. "Richard Miller? Are you sure it's the same Richard Miller?" "Yes, it's him. He specifically requested an appointment with you," she confirmed. I leaned back in my chair, contemplating the irony of the situation. Richard, my former boss, who had humiliated me and ruined my career at Miller Tech, now wanted to meet with me. The thought was almost too rich to believe. "Well, this should be interesting," I said, a hint of amusement in my voice. "Schedule the meeting. Let's see what he has to say." The day of the meeting arrived, and I couldn't deny the mix of emotions swirling inside me. A part of me felt vindicated, while another part was genuinely curious about what had brought Richard to this point. As I sat in my sleek, glass-walled office overlooking the bustling streets of Boston, I felt a sense of calm and control that I hadn't experienced in years. The door opened, and Emily escorted Richard in. He looked different, older, more worn down by the weight of his failures. Gone was the arrogant posture and the smug expression. Instead, he seemed almost vulnerable. "Mark, thank you for seeing me," Richard began, his voice lacking the confidence it once had. I nodded, gesturing for him to take a seat. "Richard, it's been a while. What brings you here?" He took a deep breath, clearly struggling to find the right words. "Mark, I'm here because I need a job. Miller Tech is not what it used to be. We've lost a lot of talent, and the company's on the brink of collapse. I know I treated you terribly, and I regret it deeply, but I need a chance to start over." The room fell silent for a moment as I absorbed his words. It was surreal, hearing Richard, the man who had once held my career in his hands, now asking for my help. "Richard," I began, choosing my words carefully, "do you remember the day you fired me? You humiliated me in front of everyone, blamed me for your mistakes. It was one of the darkest moments of my life." He looked down, unable to meet my gaze. "I know, Mark. I was wrong. I let my ego and pride get in the way. I understand if you can't forgive me, but I'm desperate." I leaned forward, my eyes locking onto his. "Desperation can make a man do many things, Richard. But before we go any further, I need you to be honest with me. Why should I trust you now?" Richard swallowed hard, his voice trembling slightly. "Because I have nothing left to lose. I've hit rock bottom, and I realize now how wrong I was. You built something incredible here, and I admire that. I just want a chance to contribute, to make things right." I leaned back, considering his words. The power dynamics had shifted so dramatically that it was almost disorienting. But in that moment, I knew I had a choice to make. "All right, Richard, I'll give you a chance," I said, watching the relief wash over his face. "But there's a condition." "Anything," he replied quickly. "I want you to make a public confession. I want you to own up to what you did to me, and to the mistakes that led to Miller Tech's downfall. You need to show everyone that you've changed." His face paled, and for a moment, I thought he might refuse. But then he nodded slowly. "I understand. I'll do it." "Good," I said, standing up and extending my hand. "Let's see if we can turn things around, together." As he shook my hand, I couldn't help but feel a sense of closure. The past had come full circle, and now I had the opportunity to lead with integrity and empathy, qualities that Richard had once lacked. It was a new chapter for both of us, one that I hoped would lead to a better future. As I stepped into the gleaming, state-of-the-art headquarters of Next Gen Solutions, a wave of nostalgia and satisfaction washed over me. It had been years since my public humiliation at the hands of Richard Miller, and now the tables had turned in the most unexpected way. I had an appointment with a ghost from my past, and I intended to face it head-on. As I reviewed the meeting agenda, there was a knock on the door. My assistant, Jessica, peeked in. "Mr. Johnson, Mr. Miller is here to see you." "Thank you, Jessica. Please send him in," I replied, my voice calm, but my heart racing slightly. Despite the success and the accolades, facing Richard Miller again brought back memories of one of the darkest days of my life. Richard entered the room, visibly nervous. The confident, arrogant man I once knew was now a shadow of his former self. He looked around, taking in the vibrant atmosphere of Next Gen Solutions, a stark contrast to the deteriorating state of Miller Tech. "Mark," he began, his voice lacking its usual bravado, "thank you for seeing me." "Richard," I acknowledged, motioning for him to sit. "What brings you here today?" He hesitated, clearly struggling with his pride. I need a job, Mark." I leaned back in my chair, maintaining a composed exterior despite the rush of emotions inside. "A job, you say? After everything that happened at Miller Tech?" Richard sighed, the weight of his mistakes evident in his expression. "Yes, Mark. I made some poor decisions, and now Miller Tech is struggling. I heard about your success and thought maybe you could give me a chance to start over." I studied him for a moment, remembering the public humiliation, the unjust accusations, and the countless nights spent questioning my worth. But I also remembered the journey of rebuilding myself, the support from Susan, and the creation of next-gen solutions. Richard, do you remember the day you fired me? I asked, my voice steady. He looked down, shame evident on his face. Yes, Mark, I remember, and I regret it deeply. Good, I said, leaning forward, because I'm willing to offer you a position here. But there are conditions. Richard looked up, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. Anything, Mark. I'll do anything. I need you to make a public confession, I stated firmly. I want you to admit your mistakes and the real reasons behind my dismissal. Only then will I consider bringing you on board. His face turned pale. A public confession? Mark, that would ruin me. I met his gaze, unwavering. Consider it a lesson in integrity, Richard. This is your chance to set things right and to learn from your mistakes. He was silent for a moment, wrestling with his pride and the reality of his situation. Finally, he nodded. All right, Mark, I'll do it. Over the next few days, Richard's public confession made headlines. He admitted his faults, detailed the poor decisions that led to MillerTech's decline, and publicly apologized for his treatment of me. The industry buzzed with the news, and my name was restored. People saw me not just as a successful CEO, but as a leader who valued integrity and second chances. Richard joined Next Gen Solutions, and while it was a rocky start, he gradually earned the respect of the team. He had a long way to go to rebuild his reputation, but he was on the right path. As for me, I continued to lead Next Gen Solutions with the same vision and determination that had brought us this far. The company soared to new heights, driven by innovation and a team that believed in our mission. And in Richard's story, I found a powerful reminder of the importance of integrity, humility, and the possibility of redemption. In the end, the experience reinforced a crucial lesson. Success is not just about achieving greatness, but also about how we treat others along the way. And sometimes, giving others a second chance can lead to the most unexpected and rewarding outcomes.